And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Woodland Stud, where they stand. Sweet Lou continues to do a great job, and of course, Bettor's Delight amongst others. Michael Guerin's back. We had Matthew Cross on the show last week, and he did a pretty fine job. A big thank you to him for coming up, and it's nice to have you back, buddy.
Nice to be back, mate. It's an interesting time, isn't it? Because the Methven Cup on Sunday on the grass, one of the few open class pacing races in the world on the grass, and I'm never sure what to make of it for those reasons, but there's a whole lot of new chess pieces on the board now for the New Zealand Cup and the Inter-Dominions. Some have come off the board, we'll talk about those. Some have joined the board for the Inter-Dominions. We'll talk to Luke McCarthy about Bling It On, who's one of those. And then the new one, the big piece that joins the fray this week, Self Assured. Didn't see this coming, Greg, so we have a lot to discuss because it's hard to believe, my friend, we're less than 4 weeks out from the New Zealand Cup.
Yeah, it's rushed up on us for sure. The IRT Inter-Dominion is not that far away either. He's second favourite, self-assured for that. We've got a lot to get through, so let's get straight into the Methven Cup. It was with Alabar, appropriately their horse. Chase Auckland got the business done. He stepped away, which was the key for him. Hadn't been the case in his last couple. We had to sit outside Ashley Locas, and he did this.
Side Grand Chico's putting in a run. Ashley Locas, Chase Auckland, Grand Chico. Chase Auckland went to the lead in the Alabar Methven Cup for Team Alabar. It's Chase Auckland. Chase Auckland in. He beat home Ashley Locas. Third and maybe Grand Chico ahead of Smoke and By. Some good late work from the fixer.
The start's been where the problem has been, but it wasn't today.
No, that's right, Greg. Obviously, really pleased the way he handled himself. So bad he was off the 20 and not so many horses around him, but just to get that first step in again and take part in the race without giving him a start was going to be great confidence for him.
Sitting parked over the extreme distance on the grass, if you like, is never a good place to be. But for him today, it seemed pretty good because he settled.
Yeah, that's right. He did. He obviously a horse that likes to race on the speed too, and when he's on song, he's very good and. He relaxed nice, he travelled well on the bid and, he was really brave the whole way up straight.
Plenty of positives then going forward. Flying Stakes, one would imagine's next.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously leave that up to Mark and Nat, see how he pulls up. Obviously, potentially could be a taxing run today on the dead grass, so we'll just see how he pulls up and I'm sure Mark and Natalie will plot out the next move.
He's a smart horse. We've known that for a while. That was win number 12. He's up over $500,000 in stakes. But getting him to sit parked on... Look, it was a sedate pace, but it was a softened grass track. And I think it was the second slowest in the last 10 years, Michael. But it was good signs for Chase Auckland.
Yeah, and I think a lot of old school horsemen and women tend to think that if a horse is having manners concerns, the grass will calm them down. So he stepped a lot better, and that's crucial because he's been blowing it at the start. I didn't see him as a horse I thought would sit parked and beat a horse like Ashley Locas. In saying that, I don't think Ashley Locas is a natural grass track 2 mile or close enough to 2 mile stayer. So I'm not sure how the format of this race is going to stack up because the 2 horses who got lead and outside the leader got there relatively easily and the fixer didn't move, so there was no real pressure in the race. The wind was very good and there's no doubts there's a Group 1 somewhere for the winner. I'm not sure what it is.
I think I saw the Cup winner there.
Yeah, you and I have had a discussion about this week, and I know the horse you're looking at down the outside, the fixer, I wasn't as enamoured with him, but with no negative knock, I just don't think he went any better than maybe Spankin would have gone, but I think the improvement factor is a lot bigger. So talk me through why you think he's the Cup winner.
Well, we'll hear from the Beaten Brigade and then discuss it on the back of that because the enthusiasm from Natalie Rasmussen certainly gave me a decent indication that she thinks he's on song. He's had a problem with his feet, as we know. That was a nice run for him first up. I got him 28 seconds on it, the wet grass track, and running home nicely. And I think with natural improvement, he can get to Ashburton and he can possibly have one more run or into the Cup trial. And I know it's not a traditional Cup build-up, but I think that he's more than capable of defending his title. I don't think Spankham is over the line by any stretch.
I agree with that.
And I'm looking for the best stayer in the race, and I think that's him. But let's hear from the Beaten Brigade. Well, Mark, you've given him his chance in front today.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. I was very happy with him just the same, and maybe that little bit of work to get round Grand Chico just took its toll a little bit in the run home, but I was still very, very pleased with him.
Yeah, he's only second up. Pathway to the Cup for him.
We'll certainly go to Ashburton. That'll be next up, and we'll make a decision after that whether we go Kaikoura or not.
Well, on that company first time, you've got to be wrapped.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Stoked with that, and he's come out really well, this horse. So no, it was really pleasant to see what he did out there today.
It trialled nicely, he paraded beautifully, but he will come on with it.
Absolutely, he's having a good blow. So no, definitely come on with that.
Okay, plan with him. I guess you go to the Flying Stakes and find out where his next road is going to be, the steps in those.
Absolutely, he's up in that grade now, so you have to race those horses all the time, and he has still got a cup nomination. So we'll give him a crack at the Flying Stakes, and he'll tell us after that.
Nat, in terms of a racetrack return, it couldn't have gone much better.
No, it was just perfect, Greg. He found the line really good. He seems to have pulled up super. I was a little bit conscious in the run. I thought if Tim found the top line, I was going to be first one parked over, it would really hurt him first up. So he found the line great and pulled up good. So yeah, fingers crossed we're onto the cup now.
Yeah, well, 28 seconds to the eye, or to the clock anyway, on that track first up. Yeah, and he looked good doing it.
Oh, he felt great too, Greg. Probably a little bit in hindsight, a bit dirty. I didn't stay out on Timmy's back, but I was so conscious that I didn't want to be first one left out there. But he's run a great race and he's hit the line strong, and he wasn't far off them.
What's the plan now? Obviously the Ashburton Flying Stakes is on his radar, but what's the plan in terms of being at Regan Todd's and at the beach? Is that going to be part of the process between now and the second Tuesday?
Greg, possibly not. I think we're over the worst of it. That infections blew out of his foot now, and so he's back sound again. So just we'll bring him home tonight after the races now, and just see how we go. If first hint of trouble though, he's back over there, but fingers crossed he'll be right.
Yeah, interesting conversation with Mark Purdon after the race, because he was in front on Ashley Lopez, and you're right, you said off camera to me, were they the Lord Louis colours? Yes, they are.
Those colours were worn by Lord Louis, for those who don't remember. He was a very good horse.
He won a couple of New Brighton Cups, I think.
Yeah, about 30 years ago. God, we're getting old.
Yes, we certainly are. And she said she could have gone around and sat on the back of Chase Auckland, but she felt he might have gone to the lead. And I asked Mark Purdon that. I said, was the lead ever there for Chase Auckland? He said, no, there's all these theories that we just drive the races the way we want to drive them. And he said, it's time that we dispelled a few of those. And I reckon they did it last season as well. Michael, they're driving for different sets of connections. So he stayed in front, and she therefore didn't get into the 1-1 and got a little bit further back. But I thought he ran on very nicely, the fixer.
Look, he did. I'll go back to the first point. The team driving thing last year, when they had Spankham and Turn It Up in those races, and Mark owns a share in Turn It Up. Let's not be too blunt about that. So they just could have let Turn It Up run to the front in those races, and he would have won the Messenger, would have won the Taylor Mile.
Yep.
But they didn't. And even before that, you go back a couple of years ago, when Lazarus won the New Zealand Cup by 10 lengths, Tim Williams was driving Smolder and raced him down the back straight. And I remember thinking, what are you doing, Timmy? And Mark Mack got really excited because he wanted to see Lazarus parked out. So I think that theory that they team drive and just hand up to each other all the time has been blown out of the water by a lot of things in recent years. Now, there's always going to be options where they hand up to each other, because if you're on the first and second favourite, or you have a dominant favourite, an ultimate sniper type horse as a 3-year-old, you're probably going to hand up to it. But they've parked each other out enough in recent years that I think we can stop factoring that in all the time. So Natalie did the right thing. I thought Chase Auckland with the lap to go, I thought, well, this will just run to the lead from Ashley Lopez, who's a better sit sprint horse anyway. Tactically, you could say they probably got the tactics wrong on Ashley Lopez.
Yeah.
But had, you could say, when Natalie moved into the 1-1, I thought, well, that's where you need to be. But then she thought it was going to the lead, so she pulled back. She got called into the room by the stewards. I'll respect the fact the stewards have to do that because he's a New Zealand Cup winner, but that inquiry can't go on for long. It's a pretty simple excuse. Look, she had every right to think that was going to happen.
And he was first up. There were a few factors there.
The fact that, we're going to look at the market for this race shortly. You can't back the fixer for the New Zealand Cup.
Well, someone has. He's $750 into $550.
Well, the way harness racing markets are in this country, that might be $500.
Right.
You just can't back him because there's a glitch. There's something that is already wrong, and it may continue to go wrong. We hope it doesn't. I hope he wins the thing.
Yep.
But you can't be backing him now, because unless Spankham starts to lose, and he could lose this Friday at Addington, but unless he starts to lose consistently, he's going to be favourite for the Cup. So then how short can the fixer get? If they meet in the Ashburton Flying Stakes, is the fixer going to beat Spankham? Because that's what he's going to need to do to leap into $3, $3.50. So with that those who've concerns Gregory, I can't be on him. I did think there was enough there to suggest Chase Auckland can win, and let's not take away from the win. Very brave performance, and that's 2 out of 4 for him. He's won both races he's paced away in. I think more the free-for-all's probably his race, to be honest. In an Inter-Dominion heat somewhere, maybe an Inter-Dominion final. I'm just not sure how hard 2 miles is his go, but that race the other day maybe indicated to me a bit more it is. So if we have this New Zealand Cup market, and there's a few more races to show you around that, your top picks now, the fixer?
It is. Yep. I'm happy to go with him at the moment, and that's obviously subject to his feet issues, but I'm happy to be with him. What about you? In one?
Oh, Spankham.
You're still with Spankham?
I'm with Spankham until another horse proves to me
Okay.
that it's a better chance.
Right, we need to go to the Kerry Hogarth, the Holmes DG from Friday night. We'll talk about Star Galleria coming out of this race. We'll get Aaron White to bring them home though, because 888, in fact it was the same trifecta as the Spring Cup, did it again off the back mark. Big performance.
Better Start Dreaming. Then came the Devil's Own, 75 to go. Mark Shard on the outside. Is 888, is it the Spring Cup over again? It is, and 888 gets over the top of Mark Shard. The Devil's Own, I'd say, third.
Yeah, terrific performance by 888, and of course it was in record time, an outstanding time of 3:17.2. Now he's not going to the New Zealand Cup. Mark Shard's still well in line to, I think he's up to about 12th in the rankings, but he is going to the Kaikoura Cup.
And a smart move from Stephen Telfer, because he's a really good horse and he still has another year to be a cup horse next year or the year after as well. I don't think you need to be going to New Zealand Cups with all horses, and a lot of northern trainers of both gates are thinking differently because of the Inter-Dominions. So he's a horse who can come to the Inter-Dominions, he's sitting in his own box at home, he's eating the same food he eats every week, and he's on his home track. It's just easier. Yes, go down, roll the dice, try and get some easy kills down south. He's probably not going to win the New Zealand Cup, although in saying that, he's a top 5 chance on this performance. He's a very good horse, but the Northern Open class races are significantly weaker than the southern ones. Last mile here, 153.5. He is a horse I expect to make the Inter-Dominion final. Now, Mark Shard, again, Barry Purdon's taken horses to the Cup before I thought couldn't win it, but they've gone super, like Pembroke Benny, and the rest of these in behind.
And Jack's Legend, who won this race and finished second to last.
Exactly right.
Yep.
The rest of them in behind you don't see as New Zealand Cup players. The horse who wasn't there, as you mentioned, is Star Galleria. Now, concerns last week about a suspensory. Stephen Reid had it scanned Thursday and Friday. He's passed that. He'll go to Alexandra Park Friday week, so 9 days from now. Reedman said, I'm absolutely not certain to go to the Cup, even if I win at Alexandra Park. And again, same reason. Inter-Dominions, closer to home. The Cup can really gut horses who have to strive really hard for a 5th, 6th or 7th.
Yeah.
So the same except with the massive Metro in the trot, a little bit back from where he needs to be because of a hoof abscess. Spoke to Michelle Wallace. She said, look, we've got the Inter-Dominions. No need to panic. National trot. Great Southern Star. So there's a few people there, Greg, who are saying, look, if I'm in that 5th to 10th favouritism bracket, and I don't think I'm going to win, let's stay home and wait for those Inter-Dominions. So here's that reshaped market. I think Spankham's a bit tight at $2, but I can see what the bookies are thinking. The one horse I can't be on is Ultimate Sniper, because
he's shown nothing this season.
Well, he's the same odds as a horse who's proven he can win a New Zealand Cup, and he hasn't proven he can run past Spankham or the fixer, or to be honest, if he steps away, Chase Auckland. Now, Cruz Bromac, I believe you got an update on him.
On
Cruz Bromac.
Cruz Bromac, yep. Today week, he'll arrive back in Auckland and then make his way down to the All-Stars. So he will be racing out of the All-Stars again. Another horse in their barn. Someone's going to pick up a decent sort of a drive there, aren't they? Magnificent last year in the Cup, unlucky 4th, and then come out and won the free-for-all. So we'll get to this Victoria Cup.
So he'll need a driver.
He will need a driver at this stage, yeah.
See, that gets interesting because if Natalie's going to stick with the fixer, Ultimate Sniper's going to need a driver. Tim Williams, I presume, sticks with Chase Auckland.
Yep.
And Cruz Bromac comes into play and he'll need a driver. If Tony Hurley and Star Galleria don't go south, do you think Hurley's available for somebody?
Possibly, yep.
Interesting horse in there too in the market who's a horse we all love, but the love's going to start wearing thin after a while, is AG's White Sox.
Yep.
Because by his standards, he was very, very poor at Addington last start. He looked like something was wrong. But he was a factor in the Cup last year. at the moment, he can't be a factor for mine now.
Well, he finally stepped away in the Canterbury Classic and then he raced very, very dour, if you like. He just never picked up the bit at all, according to Ricky Mays. So, yeah, he needs to lift for sure. Part of Cup Week in Canterbury is the Golf Day on Monday. If you're thinking about coming down nice and early, you should go and play in this at the Templeton Golf Club. Yes, it's my home club, but I won't be there because we have a couple other things to do the day before Trotting Cup Day. You can contact Peter Frid or Brother Mo there.
The most important part there, the donations from proceeds were made to the Injured Drivers and Jockeys Fund.
And they do that each and every year, so that's a great thing. All right, we need to head across the Tasman and check out what was a magnificent Victoria Cup from last Saturday night. In front and rolling was Cash and Flow. He won last week, but things are a bit different this week.
Bring it on, looming up on the outside, and Bling It On hit the lead. Cruise Pro-Mac running on, but it's Bling It On from Colt 31, and Bling It On, the comeback boys done it. Bling It On first, makes it a Hunter Cup and Victoria Cup double, has beaten Colt 31.
So an awesome performance there by Bling It On, taking out the Victoria Cup to go with his Hunter Cup. Lucky to be joined online by Luke McCarthy. Luke, thanks so much for your time and congratulations. This remarkable horse just did it again.
Yeah, how are you guys? And yeah, thanks very much. It was just a massive thrill on the weekend for the whole team.
When the barrier draw came out, Luke, inside back row looked like it was going to be okay. He ended up 3 back the fence, but often in those races at that speed, and he did break the track record there, the gaps open up. And once he was able to get off the markers, he showed us what he's done all his life, really. That's enormous speed.
Yeah, he's look. I know he's 9, and everybody knows the stories of him by now with the fall and what have you. He's but he's still got that really high speed, and yeah, he's just come back. I think he's actually come back as good as he's ever been. And the draw worked out perfect with especially how it sort of fell with Buster Brady looking like he was going to end up 1-1 behind San Carlo, and him having that little bit of a tendency to drop off at the 600. So just the way the cards fell, it did look like we were going to get a beautiful trip.
Luke, there was almost a salute as you went over the line there. Just a wee slight raising of the Persuader. That meant a fair bit, didn't it?
Oh, for sure. It's anybody with any horse to win a good race is a massive thrill, and particularly this fella to come back from that injury and to come back at that absolute top level and win, in track record time and go like he did, it was just a massive thrill.
Luke, a very unique situation with him. Not often stallions, straws were taken off him only a couple of days before he raced, but it must show the amazing nature of this horse for that to happen and then turn up and produce a supreme performance like that.
Yeah, well, he's been collected the last 2 seasons now. This will be his 3rd, and he's just a total professional with it. He got collected Friday morning. Then hopped on the float and travelled down to Melbourne, racing the Victorian Cup the night later, and then he come straight back here to Cobbity on Sunday and got collected Monday. And his attitude's just so good with it, and he's just a true professional.
So Luke, you're coming to the Inter-Dominions in Auckland. We'll get through a couple of things. Right-handed, he's very clean pacing. I presume that's not a hassle?
Well, we wouldn't think so, Mickey. Pretty much all of his work at home he's done right-handed anyway, but I know that's different to being in a race start. But spoke with Craig Sunday morning, and we sort of thought we probably won't run him again in Sydney because he'll draw 10 just with the way the handicapping is and all the rest of it. So rather than that, we'll probably take him to Menangle a couple of times, leading into Auckland, and give him a couple of real good run-ups, in a race bike and have him really balanced up, ready to go for when he comes to Auckland.
Okay, Luke, there's nobody better placed to rate the Australians versus the New Zealand horses. For those who don't know, Spankham and Mark Purdon's good horses stay at your place. You've driven Cruise Pro-Mac before. You raced in the Victoria Cup last week, but you know the Purdon horses very well. Where do the Australians sit against the New Zealanders? And in your mind, rating them all together, who should be the favourite and the horse to beat in the New Zealand Cup and then the Inter-Dominions?
Oh, look, no doubt Spankum. He's sort of really stepped it up that last preparation and looks like he's carried on with it. And particularly the New Zealand Cup, he's on his home track. He looks like he's the one to beat. And, outside of him, without the Lazarus and the Dormees not around at the moment, the rest of them are pretty even, I would think.
Luke, how do we rate a couple of horses you've either seen or you've actually driven before? Cruz Bromac, we know, is he still a factor going forward, or because he's a bit older, is he not as much? And San Carlo is a horse we've never seen here. He's going to the New Zealand Cup and he seems to be very brave at the moment via the Kilmore Cup and what we saw the other day. So how would you rate those horses for our punters here in New Zealand heading to the New Zealand Cup Carnival?
Oh, look, both of their runs in the Victorian Cup were really good. Obviously, San Carlo's done all the work, and it was probably a tricky drive for Beck. She put enough pressure on to get over the leader, which she only beat him by a long neck. Perhaps if she goes a couple of seconds slower, she may not have got over the leader and whatever, but that's the way it is, and his form couldn't be any better coming to a New Zealand Cup. And Cruz Bromac had a beautiful run on the fence, and he's sort of always just been around them horses, but I still think Spankum's the one to beat.
Luke, I want your opinion on one more horse, and we appreciate your time this evening, and we also congratulate you for a magnificent training performance for you and Craig the other day. How good is Self Assured?
Oh, look, I raced against him in Brisbane and seen him every week up there. He couldn't have been more impressive. And I presume, that like the New Zealand people and punters will get a good guide on him coming up this week. And, I know Mark wouldn't put him in the deep end if he didn't think he was ready for it. But, what he's done so far, he couldn't be more impressive.
Hey Luke, just before you go, Cash and Flow, brilliant the week before, led them up in that incredible time. I suppose compared to the week before, he was slightly disappointing, but he's racing really well.
Yeah, his best form's over the mile, no doubt. And he ran a super race again in the Victorian Cup. He had the draw, he led and popped all that pressure, and they smashed the track record. Perhaps, like we said, if San Carlo sits back at his wheel and they go 2 seconds slower throughout the trip, they may not have got over the top of him. But he's in great form, and he'll just stay in Sydney and just concentrate on the mile racing now.
All right, really appreciate your time. Congratulations again, Luke, and we look forward to seeing you towards the back end of November for what should be an awesome IRT Inter-Dominion Carnival.
Yep, thanks very much, guys.
Look, really crucial to have this horse coming to the Inter-Dominions for a couple of reasons. We need some good Australians there, and San Carlo's coming, but Cruz Bromac's coming, but it's going to become part of the All-Stars. Bling It On's one of the few horses who's proven he can beat the All-Stars at their own game. He sat on the back of Smolder and went straight past him in the Hunter Cup. So he adds X factor, because this Inter-Dominion without San Carlo, Cruz Bromac is coming across, but of course he's joining the All-Stars. It could have been very All-Stars one-sided, and now you see Star Galleria might be there, and he's got speed, Triple Eight's improving. So you're liking some of those horses as little chances. But Bling It On can beat them. He can beat Spankum. I know that sounds crazy, but if he sits in the trail and Spankum leads, he's got a chance of beating him. So at least Gregory, it invigorates, he gets the blood boiling a little bit. So crucial to have these Australians coming. San Carlo, really big for the New Zealand Cup because he's a rugged horse. He puts pressure into races.
And he'll move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is great because this season had the potential to become very one-sided for one stable. Yep. And people hate that. So I'm glad they're coming, and we're going to see later on some trotters who are coming as well.
We're going to see it right now because McLovin is heading back to his hometown, which is Canterbury. This was a phenomenal run by him. He sat 3 wide for the entire last lap, and at this point you think, he's under pressure, but he winds up here, grabs the win, and look, his record since going to Australia has been nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah, he's the horse second for the outside here in the Andy and Kate Gath colours. I'll be point blank honest if you don't watch a lot of Australian harness racing. Their open class trotters outside Andy's ones are just garbage. And that's no one's fault. Big Jack Hammer's a lovely horse, but they're just not as good as ours. Now, because Dance Craze isn't there either, so all the good ones aren't there. Tornado Valley's not coming for the Inter-Dominion, and McLoving's not coming to the Inter-Dominion either because he can't go right-handed. But he adds another X factor to the New Zealand Cup Carnival. He was good over there last season, he's improved since, a lot smoother there. Here's where I think he's a factor. I don't think he can win the Dominion.
But he could.
Because Oscar Bonavina and Sunday Sun will definitely go to the Dominion, as will Markula, and maybe an improving Mombay. I'm not sure all of those horses, or in fact, I'm not sure any of those horses
will go to the free-for-all.
I think the New Zealand free-for-all, I spoke to Mark about Oscar Bonavina, he's 50-50, mobile 3 days before the Dominion. Sunday Sun's got to be 50-50, surely. Again, Markula doesn't seem to back up from one day to the next with those situations. I've got a funny feeling McLovin can be there. He's in the market for the free-for-all. He might be the horse who can win that race. Again, great to have the Australians coming for that carnival. It just changes the dynamic, and more Aussies will pay attention, more Aussies will bet. That helps our overseas income and therefore our percentages of distribution from the Racing Board or RITA back to the codes. It's a long story, but it's a good thing.
All right, short break for us here on Your Box Seat. When we come back, we'll have a look at that Mombay trial from last week because I think it's worth it. Well, the last 3 or 4 seasons for Michael J. House have been nothing short of remarkable. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to go out, have a chat to him about that. We found also out that he was born in the United States of America, that he lived on the West Coast and a whole lot of other things, but we really wanted to focus on this Manawatu mania, so we started with that.
I think I started really in 2015 and we started a couple of trips. And no one was doing it, Davey Budd had stopped. And the stake money was going up, and it was an opportunity. I had some average horses, and then I think in 2016 I sent Dexter 3 or 4 times, and he came back from one trip, and he said, quote, "I will never, ever, 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 ever go back to that place ever again. Never ask me ever again." So I took that quite seriously. So I sent Johnny Cox, and then I sent someone else, and numerous things went wrong, right? You know, horses would fall over on the track, carts would get broken, stuff would go wrong, right? So the following year, I decided, right, I better start going and work out why this is not really working out like it should. It's only paying for itself. We're not making any money. So Penny Boyle just held a hand up. She said, "I'll drive the ute." I said, "Right, I'll drive the truck." And we did it. And we did it for a season, and I think we trained 40 odd winners from there. 45 winners from there, and we perfected the system.
And you had a bloke sitting in the cart.
And we decided, Dexter was away, he went on some rugby trip, and we decided we better get a driver designated to do this job. And I said to Blair, "I've got a plan here. I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to take this up a notch." And I said, "It could be the difference between you and Dexter in the end." And he agreed, and he said he'd do it. And we ended up 45 wins, and
he drove 38 of them.
Yeah, and it was a wonderful experience. I did every trip that year.
But that wasn't sustainable either, though.
No, it wasn't sustainable. No, it was okay. It was great. It was money, and it was good. And I decided, I looked at it from different areas, and I decided that we need to ramp it up another notch. And the best way to do it was me stay at home. And while that team of horses was there, I would have another team of horses getting ready for the next meeting. And I employed a truck driver. So I had arguably the best driver in the country doing the job. I had one of the best truck drivers you could probably put in a truck, and probably one of the best.
Who was that?
Lindsay Bolton.
Yep. Good on you, Lindsay. You're happy to get a mention.
Big shout out to Lindsay. Yeah. And I had Penny Boyle, who her insatiable appetite for work, and she took charge of it, and she took it to another level. And then we ended up getting really smart and getting some locals to help.
The logistics of all of that, though, Michael, right down to things like water buckets and leads and all of that stuff, there's a fair bit of
absolutely
behind it, isn't it?
Everything's evolved. You know, we leave stuff behind now, and it's all the locals know what they've got to do, and when what we did during the year was I stayed out of it. I did my job. I procured horses and I stayed on the track here, and I let other people do their job. And I've learned that the real key to actually getting really good at this job is having good people doing their job.
You talk about procurement and getting these horses that are suitable for a trip like that. Is there a set formula? Do you go, right, I'm going to watch this race meeting and pick out 3 or 4, or is it more people are now coming to you?
Well, they are coming to me, and I am trying to buy them, and I'm very mindful of the sort of horse I need. And when I'm looking at my diary and I'm coming up to close to nomination time, I'm going, geez, I haven't got a horse for that race.
Right.
Then I go and find it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just a bit of good luck, understanding what the nominations could end up being like. And this year I'm thinking I need to put a 4th truck on the road to make it all happen.
Any negativity?
Very much so.
Yeah. From connections, I suppose, or particularly trainers of horses that you are taking up there.
Yes, yeah.
And what about locally in the Manawatu? That is the home of the Duties.
There were a couple of trainers who have said things to some of my staff which are, you know, pretty average. Social media's been average. I'm pretty disappointed really in harness racing how it's allowing the negativity of people who can't comprehend how hard some people have to work.
To make it work.
Yeah, and then, like, I know what it's like to be Mark Purdon, just for a few minutes. I don't know how he does it. You know, to be called constantly a cheat and work so hard and achieve so many great things. It's very upsetting for me. You know, I really, like, I'm not scared to have a crack on it on the internet. You know, to defend myself, I really don't care. You know what people think, and I honestly, there are people out there thinking that they're calling us out, and they're absolutely so wrong. It is ridiculous.
98 winners.
Last season,
Frustrated that you didn't get 100, or
no, I would have been excited if I got 8.
Was there a goal?
No,
or did it
no
just
goal.
because, let's be fair, Michael, you didn't train a winner until 2.5 months into the season.
Well, we'd moved here. We didn't have a track. The first 28 winners were trained out of a paddock with no stopwatch. We didn't have any pegs. So I thought we did pretty good, really.
But to get to 98 off the back of that, and particularly the way you've started this current season, it really is a possibility. Have you set a number?
No, I haven't. You know why? Because I just want to pay the $40,000 a month interest.
Yeah.
And I don't care
and that's
how I do it.
That's your focus.
I don't care whether the number's 8 or 98, as long as I can do that and keep my darling with a roof over her head.
Yeah. That's the focus.
Yeah, when we've got this behind us, you know, whether I take the foot off the throat or whether I go harder, I don't know. It'll come down to my family, I suppose. We've got our own goals, our personal goals. In business, I'd like to build Lindsay a monument to her work as a veterinarian. Canterbury really needs, or Christchurch really needs, a veterinary clinic, an equine hospital, you know, that will last 30 or 40 years from today. The 2 hospitals, Canterbury Equine and Prebbleton Veterinary Hospital, are very old and aged and are not really meeting the challenge of the future. And I'm focused, you know, on maybe I might have to back right out of training one day to support her. You know, she does great work, whereas I'm only mucking around.
7 wins off Robert Dunn, 17 off the All-Stars. You're getting pretty bloody close to winning a premiership, are you?
Yeah. Well, I won the premiership on Trent's Road, which is...
Back in its day would have been a real real highlight.
Correct.
DG just on the road, and obviously the
Yeah.
Nines where you are. So, yeah.
Yeah, no. Look, honestly, I'd love to do it, but every time I set myself a goal, I fall flat. I'm not. My goal is really to survive, and do some good work, have some memorable moments. Most people wouldn't realise what my memorable moments are, and it's not the big ones. It's like for a horse trainer, just getting a horse, something special, a moment, and something you hadn't done before, and I'm really. I think what I probably could tell anyone who wants to listen is anything's possible.
Tell me about some of your staff and how important they are to you.
Well, they're everything, really. Without them, I can't do the job. I can't do everything anymore, and I'm not going to do everything anymore. And Wayne's been with me 20 years. He's has his role. He turns up here like 5 o'clock most days. He feeds the team, makes all the feeds. He's fastidious. He does things in a manner which is very reliable. Penny arrives here not long after him, and she's the go-to girl. She runs it, and she manages the barn, and she treats it like it's her own.
How many do you have here at any one time?
At the moment, there's 7 of us.
Right.
Yeah, so there's 3 up in Auckland, and then we have our people we bring in, like our truck drivers and our support crew. That we have our part-timers, and this our weekend crew. There's 3 that come in on the weekends, because I'm trying to have my family people, the people of the family, not work on the weekends as much.
It's important, isn't it?
Yeah, and I pay everyone by the hour.
Yep.
And everyone gets paid by the hour, and they're pretty well paid, and like almost everyone makes more money than I do, and it's been a successful model for me, because I feel like while we can't afford it, they're getting paid for doing the job.
Can you top last season?
No, probably not. It's not till you've done those things that you know you can. And it was a one-off at this stage.
Won't stop you trying, though.
Well, I'll have a crack. Yeah, we'll have a crack at it, because we need to. We need the money. Like we're hanging out there to make next month's mortgage payment, and it's a lot of money. And the only way I could do it was off the track. And who would think that you can make that sort of money out of Manawatu Raceway? And we did. Harness racing, to me, has never been in a better shape to actually race. Addington in 10 years' time could well be what it was 50 years ago, with all the buildings and its scope and the horse population shrinking to just Canterbury, and the less trainers around. People still want to be in it. It just won't be as big.
Yeah. You've had to spread a bit too. You get to the end of the Manawatu season, so Forbury Park has become a target for you as well, and even more so the stake level at Alexandra Park. And now you've set up an operation up there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, if I was to be a horse trainer for the next 10, 15 years, say my boys wanted to be in it, you'd need to run 3 stables in New Zealand. You need one in Canterbury, one in Auckland, one in Invercargill. And you'd need a truck at each place, you'd need a foreman at each place, and you need a couple of staff, and you just feed them racehorses from a central farm. And I think if you could manage that, you could actually build a business that's sustainable in racing, because it's those 3 centres are going to survive. How we used to do things is going to change, and if we don't adapt, you won't survive. And the challenge is actually looking in the mirror and making the changes you need to yourself, and understanding that Chris Waller, even Bart Cummings, way back in the 60s did it and had 3 stables. When their racing scene changed, they adapted, they survived. Racing's been so good and so easy, a traditional stable just doesn't cut it any longer.
A classic horse? You're always in search. Are you closer to getting one?
I've spent so much at the yearling sales and been bridesmaids. You know, the yearling sales is so where it's at, and if you can't conquer the yearling sale, you're not there. And
explain that a little bit more to me, because what does that mean? You're not going to compete at the absolute level unless you're buying the stock at that stage.
The yearling sale catalogue comes out, there's 500 horses, there's 500 pages. I pride myself on the fact that I'll look at every horse and I'll nail the top 50 every time. You might as well just rip every other page out of the book, and there's 50 horses left, and out of that 50, All Stars gets 25. The other 25 gets sprinkled around the neighbourhood, and that is the direct correlation to Premier Days, and it's just a fact of life. And now that the breeding numbers have gone from 3,800 20 years ago to 1,600 this year, 600 of those are trotters, that's 1,000 paces. Just do the math. Just do the math. Yeah. Like, there were 165 pacing colts last year's sales. 120 of them weren't worth
putting through the sale.
Well, not putting through the sale. They weren't. Like, they're not the horse of your dreams, right? It's so condensed, and it's so predictable that it's even easier for people like Mark Purdon, Ray Green, people who have actually got some backing to actually find good horses, and that's where it's at. And you have to spend $1 million to find a horse that'll win 100,000. Does it make sense?
Always a very interesting character. I thought some of the stuff he said about the yearling styles really resonated with me, and I'm sure it did with you.
Yeah, look, I think the thing I got out of it the most was putting the systems in place for Manawatu. It's all right to have a plan, but you've got to have systems that make it work, and you've got to adjust those systems when they don't work. He's an interesting character, Michael House. This may be the pot calling the kettle black, but he's a person who not everybody gets on with because he is very aggressive in the way he does things. I respect that. And he's incredibly important to the industry. Not everybody can be your laconic, laid-back type farmer horseman, and not everybody can be the big sort of businessman attitude that Michael was. You need both in the industry, and he's got a crucial role to play in filling fields. Manawatu would be stuffed without him, quite simply. It's a really important story for harness racing, so I take my hat off to him. He's very good at reinventing himself, and that takes not only talent but a lot of drive.
Yeah, it certainly does. End of the month, of course, Palmy North will kick back in, so we wish him well on his sojourns up there. Right, he drove his first winner for Fred and Faye Fletcher a wee while ago. What about some of these young people that have been doing it for the first time as well? We've banged them all together, and here are some of the new stars of our game. Well, they don't come better than that. First drive Addington Raceway, first race day drive in your career, and bang, you lobbed up a winner.
Yeah, it was a great thrill. He was a real good horse. I had the drive at the workouts before, and I thought he was quite a good chance, but yeah, it was a great thrill, and thanks to the owners for putting me on.
Copperhead Rose we're talking about, of course, and well-experienced horse, and I suppose at this stage of your career it was nice to get on one that knew its way around.
Yeah, no, it was real good, and hopefully I'll get back on him soon. Yeah.
Tell us about your background. Plenty of family involvement here.
Yeah, my dad trains, and my half-brothers, Craig and Chris, they drive. And my sister, she drives, so yeah, had to do it.
Was it always going to be the thing you wanted to get involved in?
Yeah, I was always hoping to get into horses, yeah.
Right, you're working for Fred Fletcher, and, well, he's a master when it comes to getting the harness horses ready. He's nearly trained 500 winners.
Yeah, no, it's real good working for Fred. He teaches me a lot, and he talks about drives, so yeah, it's quite good.
All right, well, you've done very well thus far. We're looking forward to seeing you back on track. Good luck.
Thank you.
The leader is Kiwis Are Flying. Dr. Tim's a neck away. Into the clear, Smarter VC from Do It Son. Kiwis Are Flying. Smarter VC's ahead on the outside. Smarter VC. It's still Kiwis Are Flying. Smarter VC. You'll get there. Smarter VC's given Alana Cameron her first win and beaten. Kiwis Are Flying.
Alana, if you're going to win it anywhere, Addington Raceway is a pretty good place to start.
No, definitely it was, especially at headquarters, especially being training here in Canterbury as well. pretty special.
A little horse, Smarter VC, he's put together a pretty good record, and when he can be given the run you gave him that night, he's pretty potent.
Yeah, it's really hard because he's got to sort of wait for luck. He can't really make his own luck, but when he gets his luck, he tries really hard out and just keeps going.
Tell us about your background, and you've got some family history in the game. Is that the main reason you got involved?
Definitely. Mum and Dad have always had horses own bred. Nana was the Wyndham secretary for 20 years, and Granddad trained down in Southland. He didn't train many good horses, but he was a hobby trainer. He was in it. But yeah, it was a big part of it.
It was nice to win as well. Your partner Matt Purvis did the training, so there were a few ticks and a lot of boxes there.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was good to get one for Matt. He's given me a few opportunities, which was also great.
What about the future for you? What would you like to achieve, say, in the next 12 months?
Ideally, just keep learning and driving more winners, as everyone wants to. Just keep learning, take something good out of every race and gain as much experience as I can.
200 metres leads at a length. Vinny Rules wide out. Namira Franco zooming home. BetStars Blue Jean. It's still Ghost Rider. Here's Namira Franco. Ghost Rider. Namira Franco. Here's a day for Gemma Thornley. Namira Franco wins. Namira Franco beats home Ghost Rider. Third in Vinny Rules. Fourth in BetStars Blue Jean.
Gemma, when your name's Thornley and you live in Green Park, being associated with horses was probably always on the cards. Is that the case?
There's probably not many other options for me living out there and living with horses.
You got win number one appropriately at Mochgarara. Couldn't have got much better in that regard.
No, you probably couldn't pay a better script, I guess, especially having my grandmother out there on the sideline cheering me on, and both my parents there, and on your home track. That I think was one of my first proper tracks I sort of ever drove on, was the grass track out there, yeah.
So Namira Franco, now you got a fair way back in the run, but Uncle Craig had helped you out a little bit with that too, hadn't he?
Yeah, well, when Styx first told me that I was going to get to drive Namira, I sort of went back and watched her videos, and I couldn't believe that she won from where she did. So when we sort of made the plan up, when Styx and I was talking before the race, we made a plan up. So when I got to where I was coming into the bend, I didn't want to panic too early because I knew my horse had a sprint and I was only supposed to save her for the one run. So watching that drive back, gave you the confidence that if I just zoomed up the outside, yeah.
And you certainly did that. You had a few links to make out, but she stormed home.
Yeah, I don't even think it sort of went in a bit of a blur. I sort of gave her a couple of taps and then I looked over to my left and sort of just saw the others fading back, and you sort of had that inkling that I may have got it. Yeah.
And what about the euphoria once you got over the line and got back to your family? That must have been pretty cool.
It was a bit surreal actually, people coming up, and it's sort of, as I said before, a big blur. You sort of can't really remember it. It took a wee while to actually sink in that, I just won a race, your first race. You've won trials and workouts before, but it's something different winning your first proper race.
Well, congratulations on win number one. We hope it's one of many, and look forward to your future.
Thank you very much.
So here's Mombay. Earlier in the race, he started off 40 metres. He's worked around to parked. What I liked about this, Michael, was the way he savaged the line. I haven't seen this campaign this time in. And what's more so is about a second outside Oscar Bonavina's winning time in the Canterbury Park Cup. Yes, you have to factor in he's only beaten War Machine and a couple of others, like Doff Your Cap and Mr. Fahrenheit, but it was pleasing to see anyway.
Yeah, obviously they're chucking more work into the horse. The concern when a horse has leg problems are you don't work them very hard and try and get them to the races and hope their natural ability carries them across the line. Wasn't working because he's too old. So obviously Greg Hope has stepped the work up, and now it's a case of how long can the horse cop that for. But they had to do it.
And it was good to see. Very good to see. Let's get to the Ashburton Flying Mile, because it could be a decent go with Mark Cooler, Sunday Sun. Although you've got a theory on Oscar Bonavina.
Oscar Bonavina races Friday night at the Addington Mobile Race. He'll just bolt in again if he produces his best. I'm not sure he'll go to Ashburton.
Okay.
Be very careful with some of these futures markets. It's great they're open. It's wonderful, but these horses aren't going to line up all the time. Oscar Bonavina, I wouldn't be surprised if they back off him if they want to go Dominion and potentially then to Dominions. But he's a horse who might miss a few races you expect him to start in, and he's favourite for all of them.
He is. Right, we need to go stateside. We've got a few things to look at here. Mick Wicked winning again, but the most significant part here was the horse that got second, Michael, gets to the outside. Mickey G, the former Dave Gaffney trained pacer, got within a nose, 151 and 1. Have a look at this, right on the line. He had a dip and just missed. Yeah. And Mick Wicked, arguably, is the best pacer in the world.
Well, $250,000 free-for-all. This was on Yonkers International Trot Day last Saturday. I just think the free-for-all horses there aren't that good at the moment because Mick Wicked just keeps on winning, as he did last year. Predominantly, he won that race also.
The Dan Rooney, that's what it's called.
I think they retire too many of their horses too young, and much like the Australian galloping seed, you end up with a vacuum in your free-for-all ranks. He's a very good horse, make no mistake, but I'm not sure how good the rest of them are, but wonderful for Dave Gaffney and the team with Mickey G.
Yep, he loved it. Saw him at Methven on Sunday. He was very excited. What about the $1 million invitation trot? This is the one we hope to get Speeding Spur, and he did race on this day and finish fourth, by the way. But this is Zacongio, the Italian, going for 12 in a row, and it dead set bolts it.
Yeah, and the best Italian trotter since the great Varenne. This trotting race is not quite working out as they panned out. $1 million US. They're not getting the best horses every year. There's something just wrong with it. I'm not sure whether it's Yonkers or it comes at the back end of a year or it's too close to the Breeders' Crown, which is this week. Again, it's a race which should be going better than it is.
I'll tell you who is going better than probably even our wildest dreams, and certainly his, is this bloke here, Dexter Dunn. He won 3. This is at Woodbine. A couple of those were $225,000 races, and have a look at him in front here. He almost gets horizontal with the ground as he gets close to the winning post. Tattoo Artist and Moonbridge were those two winners at that big stake level. He currently sits, Michael, third in the stake earnings for the season behind a bloke called Tetrick and the other fella Gingra.
$9 million in stakes for Dex. They don't get driving fees up there, as we're watching a couple of these Super Series wins out of Woodbine. Often Dex will drive, Woodbine's obviously in Canada, often Dex will drive in New Jersey and then catch the plane with the boys, with Tim Tetrick and Yannick Gingra, and go to Woodbine for the night. So it's only an hour and a half flight. They pop up there, and I doubt we'll see him back in New Zealand as in regards to full-time driving, because this is only his first full season in the US, and you would think he'll only get better, and his connections will get better, and he's a very young guy. So he's got
energy levels wise, he's yeah.
Look, it's not a great lifestyle. I've had lunch with Dexter up there, and it is just drive, drive, drive. But you can do that when you're a young man. He's only just 30 years old now. So congratulations. We're thrilled about it because he's a rare talent, but it's a little bit of me disappointed that he's not down here driving, but when I watch a Gore or an Invercargill or a Timaru, I think, would that really be a waste of your talents? And the answer to that is probably yes.
Well, the way he's going up there,
and that's not
sure.
flagging those places, Greg.
No, absolutely not. Sire Stakes Heat. We've got one at Addington Raceway this week. It sees the return of the reigning 2-year-old of the year and One Change, a horse that is touted to be a real challenge for him this year, an Italian lad, although off the unruly it won't be easy. Perdan Virgil flying even better. It's a deep Sire Stakes Heat. We want to have a look at the Rangiora workout from the 9th of October. Here's One Change in front, and that is Italian lad who does get second to him last. Just over a lap out at Rangiora. They got home in 56.3 and 27.4 to give you an idea of how good Italian lad is. We saw that, mind you, at Oamaru first up. He had no right to win that race and did. We'll transition this to when he starts to move around the field. So he goes on his own solo. For a horse that's only had one start, One Change is unbeaten. He gets up alongside him and then he runs him pretty close in the straight. I was so impressed by his first up win, and I was even more impressed by this trial, Michael.
Yeah, he's gone super because the horse in front was the juvenile of the season last season unanimously, in saying that this week I can't see One Change beaten because he should dominate the race from in front, and if he's not going to be in front, he'll sit in the trail. Maybe Flying Even Better might lead and he might trail him, but again, it's like the Spankham situation. He's the top dog until somebody else proves they've got a bigger bark. So we'll see how that unfolds in the next 6 weeks heading to the Sire Stakes.
We've already heard from Luke McCarthy talking about self-assured, and just shows you how up-to-date he is. He knows the horse is going around this week, and he takes on Spankham. He gets a start off him. He's second favourite for the IRT Inter Dominions. He's only had the half a dozen start. Last start win, of course, came in the Queensland Derby. Just wanted to quickly show his Rangiora workout to boot, and this was a terrific performance from him. He's last at the moment. Another masterpiece is in front. Have a look at his last couple of 100 metres here, Michael. He really stretches out like a good horse, and they don't often make ground like he has in this trial. And another masterpiece is in this week as well, but I'm pretty excited to see him again. We saw him in the early stage of his career, but of course he was 4 from 4 in Australia.
Well, consider the fact he's had 6 starts. He's won them all. He's only raced in like a rating 55 here, and now he's favourite to beat Spankham. Admittedly, it's a 30-metre head start. Big word of warning here, and pay a bit of attention. This is important. This is your money you're playing with here. If the All-Stars have an Achilles heel over the last 10 years, it is what?
Standing starts.
Standing starts, fresh up for horses.
First up, 3-year-olds into 4.
No, don't worry. Auckland React, the list is so long. It's bigger than my nose. Like, that's a world of pain for him, standing start, fresh up. Absolutely no chance you can take $2. He might come out and bolt him, but I'm not backing any of their horses fresh up in a standing start. Lazarus got beaten fresh up in a standing start.
Got beaten at Ashburn.
The list is, as I said, it's longer than my honker, so stay out of that.
What about the Woodlands runners for this week? And again, we thank them for their great support. Oh, they've got Self-Assured, they've got Double or Nothing, and they've got Norman Richards, who goes around in a really hot race, the Riverton Cup. There's Robbins Playboy, Franco Santino, Notabene Denario resumes, Mongolian Cavalry, Paddy Proudfoot. Gee, it's a good race, that. And Dark Horse takes on Majestic Man. I spoke to Phil Williamson about him.
Oh, that's good.
He wasn't disappointed.
What day is that? Saturday?
That's Sunday, Riverton.
Cool.
So it wasn't disappointed about how Majestic Man got beaten last time. Monty Python's in that race as well. Speaking of Phil Williamson, I've gone for one of his runners this week at Forbury Park. Yes, we're back there Thursday night. Fanny Hill, spoke to him yesterday. He said, pretty happy with her. I reckon she can really take the step this time. And she's in a junior drivers race, penalty free. It'll be winning.
I like Major Rage. I think he goes out of Alexandra Park to Cambridge, has been going good races, and I think for young Luke Whittaker, could get his first training success with this one. I think it'll be his first training success. Friday night for Cambridge this week.
Big day at the trials today, 130 odd horses going around at Rangiora, including Sheriff and Mombay, so very important going forward. Sheriff at this stage still in line to start in the New Zealand Cup. Spoke to Nigel McGrath about Grand Chico, and he said he and Sheriff will go to the Flying Stakes. Like Smoke and Buy for Mitchell Kerr, there's a few going there to find out where they go next. Kaikoura, those types of places may become more logical than maybe a New Zealand Cup for some.
And just going backwards, last week James Stormont trained his 200th training winner in New Zealand at Alexandra Park.
Yeah, good on you, Jimmy.
Sonny Petit, well done to you, Jimmy. It's not easy, mate, don't have a big team, but he's done a great job over a long period of time. Gregory, there's a lot of things changing here. Start of the season, it was Spankham and Sunday Sun favourites for these big races. There's a lot of new players coming and going, and Australians coming and going, and Oscar Bonavina's coming. It's a fun time with only 3 and a bit weeks to go to the Cup Carnival.
Certainly is. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
Good to
We'll
be
see
back.
you in 7 days, and we'll have a whole lot more information because there's a lot going on. Enjoy your harness racing week ahead.